This is a series of webinars which is organized by different European technology parks and incubators that are supporting life science enterprises, developing life science enterprises. So this time the webinar is held by us, Uppsala Innovation Center, and we are one of the top business incubators in Sweden. Just a brief description of UIC, which is an abbreviation of Uppsala Innovation Center. We are industry independent, and about 40 to 60 companies or projects are admitted to UIC every year. We also have a good track record. We have about 9 out of 10 of our alumni companies that remain active on the market. Much thanks to our business programs and our about 50 business coaches from the industry who support our companies. And one of our alumni companies is Halo Genomics, who will hold the presentation for us here today. Fredrik Dahl at Halo Genomics, or today Agilent Technologies, is the former CTO and co-founder of Halo Genomics, and he will tell us about the strategic journey from DNA sequencing research and funding in 2008 to a successful exit in 2011. And Halo Genomics was admitted to UIC in 2008, and we have followed and supported the company closely during their journey. And before I hand over the microphone to Fredrik Dahl, I would like to give you a short description of the dashboard that you can see on your right-hand side. Here you can find and see the names of the attendees. And if you want to ask Fredrik a question during or perhaps after the presentation, you can either write your question in a text field down below, or you can click on an icon to raise your hand. And then I will pass over the question to Fredrik. And I would really appreciate it if you could take the opportunity to ask Fredrik questions either during or after his presentation. That doesn't really matter. And I also want to say that I am recording this webinar for those of you who want to hear the webinar again, or for those who weren't able to join. And an email, I will send you an email with this information within short. So now I welcome Fredrik Dahl and hand over the microphone to Fredrik for his presentation. Let's just see if everything works here.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. So I am Fredrik Dahl. I'm currently an R&D director at Agilent Genomics. I'm based in Uppsala. And for those who are not familiar with Agilent, Agilent is a technology company. They are active in many different fields. And one of the 4 business units are diagnostics and genomics group, where we belong. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Halo Genomics, the company we founded in Uppsala in 2008, and finally tell you a little bit about how the integration has been with Agilent and what we currently are working on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the team and investors, the technology and product, describe very briefly the market we operate in, and also finally do a kind of company history summary, and also try to pinpoint some of the lessons we learned along the 3 years of Halo. Okay, so let's see here. See if everyone can see the screen, hopefully now. Okay,
Yes, we can see it fine.
Okay, perfect. So the team, the founders of Halo were all PhD students from Uppsala University. We came from Rudbeck Laboratory, and that was the PI was Ulf Landegren. Olle Eriksson and I managed the company, and we were, both graduate student from the university. In the board, we had Morten Winge, Anders Nordström, and Mats Nilsson. Morten was a former CEO at Proxium, a Danish startup company that was acquired by Thermo in 2010. Anders was the former CFO at Pharmacia Diagnostics, and Mats Nilsson, kind of our academic representative in the board. So Anders was actually also one of the business coaches from Uppsala Innovation Center, and coached Olle all the way from, well, actually before funding of the company, and then throughout the whole Halo journey to exit. So he has been part of Halo from start to finish. And these are the companies that we have been involved with in different functions. So we had a opportunity to work with a great group of shareholders. We were 25 shareholders in total. Many of these were family and friends, very brave family and friends who invested early in the company. We had also was very lucky to have Almi Invest as one of the early investors. It's a Swedish government-based kind of early stage VC company. And then another startup company, Holding Bioscience, also based in Uppsala, who was an early founder and also contributed with some of the technologies. The technology and product, for those who are not familiar with DNA sequencing, this is usually how it's carried out in research lab and diagnostic labs around the world. You start with isolating your DNA, usually from blood. You copy the parts of the DNA that you want to sequence, the pieces that are of interest, usually called the genes, and then you sequence the genes in this kind of DNA sequencing instrument. And back in the days when you want to sequence one patient, one gene, it corresponds to 10 PCRs, these copy machines or copy reactions, and then 10 sequencing reactions. That's usually a pretty straightforward project, but nowadays when you want to look at more complex diseases, you want more of a larger patient cohort. So 100 patients, 100 genes, it's a quite typical number of patients and genes, and that corresponds to 100,000 PCRs and 100,000 sequencing reactions. And now you can see the numbers are quite large, and you would require dedicated infrastructure and personnel to carry out these kinds of genomic studies. So what happened a few years ago was that there was new instruments introduced to the market called next generation sequencing or second generation sequencing. That replaced all those first sequencing instruments or old Sanger sequencing based technologies. And as a consequence, you could sequence all those 100,000 PCR reactions in only one sequencing round. But also, as you can imagine, there was a new bottleneck created. That was the PCR. So Halo Genomics focused on solving that bottleneck and providing a technology called HaloPlex PCR. And that generated a much more streamlined workflow. So for 100 genes, 100 samples, you would now require to do one PCR per sample and one sequencing run in combination with these next generation sequencing instruments. So it's not only a more efficient sequencing reaction, but also the upfront sample prep got more efficient. So we sold this as a kit product called Haloplex. We could take a pretty high price and great margins on this kit. It's a simple manufacturing and kind of a repackaging of standard products. So we bought in buffers and DNA oligonucleotides elsewhere from other companies, and we just repackaged them and put them in the kit. So there's no expensive, so it's pretty cash efficient operation. There is no expensive investments in developing technologies and in instruments. It's very kind of simple manufacturing by pipetting standard lab buffers. What we did invest some in was an automated web design and ordering system to simplify the ordering and design for the customers. So the customers told us which genes they were interested in to sequence and amplify, and we provided them with a custom-based Haloplex kit. Very short, the market estimates, and I want to very clearly say that this is Halo's estimate, not Agilent's estimate, in 2010. So it's outdated numbers, but use this as kind of an illustration on how we estimated market 3 years ago. This was still kind of early days in next generation DNA sequencing, a very fast growing field, and during that time those instruments were spread out around the world at laboratories that had good funding and in the field of sequencing quite well known. And as you know, with scientists and professors, with some of them at least big egos, they want to show everyone that they can afford those expensive and new fancy instruments. So what they did, we found this Google map where everyone is actually telling everyone that they can afford an instrument and exactly who they are and where they are based. So we thought, okay, great. Now we know where all our customers are. They're based exactly here according to this Google map. So we started to go through this Google map and list all the customers, potential customers, and found or estimated that there was about 500 instruments in 2010 globally. And we listed about 12 key accounts where we started to focus our sales at. So that consisted about 20% of the next generation sequencing market that we estimated in 2010 to be around $1 billion. And this is also an illustration on how fast the field is growing. So and this has kept growing very fast and is now kind of transitioning more into clinical, from R&D and research more into clinical space where we expect the growth to continue. So this was important obviously when you start a company to get a good estimate of the market, because if there is no market, there is harder to start a company. So it was important for us to figure this out, but also to explain to investors and others that this was a fast-growing market and opportunity. So briefly about the company history. So in 2008, the company was founded, and as I mentioned, Ole Eriksson, the CEO, went through the business lab at Uppsala Innovation Center. So we founded the company in 2008, then we continue with basic research at the university, and in 2010 we started to raise our first round of seed financing, and with that money we established a lab and started hiring R&D people. So by end of 2010 we were 10 employees. We had a lab in Uppsala and developed a proof of concept product that we shipped to beta customers to get some feedback not only on the product and the technical side, but also if this was a product that customers were willing to pay for, and they were. So that was important. In 2011, the money was running out, so we had to raise a second round that was planned, and a second round of seed financing that we closed during the summer in 2011. We established a co-marketing agreement with Life Technologies, and we built a commercial team, or starting to build a commercial team, with a sales manager based in Sweden, but also sales people based in UK and on the East Coast in US, based in Boston. And by end of 2011, managed to build sales to $1 million. One of the important thing here was that so Life Technologies was one of the biggest biotech companies in the world, and they provide one of these next generation sequencing instruments, and the fact that they wanted to work with us was very important, also to prove that our technology is valid, that they like the technology, and are willing to post this on their webpage that we are working together. So it was important not only for us, but again also important to show the investors that this is we're moving ahead, and companies like Life Technologies want to work with us. So
sorry, Fredrik.
During
sorry.
summer, yes.
Sorry, Fredrik. I have a question from Indrek Kask. And the question is, what was the innovation from Halo Genomics? Was it bioinformatics? Do you understand the question?
Okay, so let's go back to the this slide, and the innovation and the patents the technology was based on was biochemistry and biochemistry procedure and protocol that we filed very early patents on. So we had an idea and a technology where we could avoid associated with PCR. So PCR, traditional PCR, can't be multiplex. Multiplex meaning you can't amplify more than a few regions in the one single reaction tube. So we solved that problem with some biochemistry tricks that we packaged and called the Haloplex. So we were able to amplify thousands of individual fragments and thousands of individual genes in one single reaction tube. There was also bioinformatics components to this. So the question of how do you design probes to guide this amplification. So the majority of the invention was around biochemistry, but there was also some bioinformatics parts of it.
Okay, Indrek, was that an answer to your question?
That was almost what I expected.
Okay, thanks.
I was just kind of wondering if, Fredrik, you said that in principle the production costs were quite low, and it was kind of a very high margin business for you. So I thought that, you know, what was kind of your part there? Was it that you were able to design everything more efficiently, or you had some, let's say, magic chemicals included in the kit?
Yeah, so the individual components are not magical, but when you mix them together, it becomes magical, and that's what we filed the IP on. So it was so IP was important.
Fredrik, sorry. Okay, thanks. Fredrik, sorry, I have a question regarding IP. When you were talking about it, from Kille Ternov, how did you handle and protect IP?
Well, so we had, we had legal firms that handle our IP. I'm not sure if that's.
Okay. Hello, kille. Okay. I believe she's at home. Okay. Fredrik, you can keep on talking.
Okay. Yeah, so the IP was handled by an outside firm. We had, I think, one in Sweden, but also in UK that kind of knows the field of DNA engineering. Okay, so back to the presentation. So so during summer in 2011, we got the co-marketing agreement early in 2011, but during the spring and summer in 2011, we got approached by multiple companies and that was starting to look at us, and we then realized that there may be an opportunity to sell the company during summer 2011. So we started to discuss this during board meetings and take a little bit more intense discussions with these companies that showed interest. And finally, we decided to hire an outside firm, an M&A advisor, merger and acquisitions, called HDR Partners. It's a small shop in Stockholm, and together with a expensive but good legal advisor, Hannes Snellman, also based in Stockholm. And I think this was one of the best decisions we made because we were a young team that had not any previous experience on selling companies, and we also realized that is taking a lot of effort and energy from the daily operations. So outsourcing this to an M&A advisor who established very quickly a more formal process was key, and something we did not regret. So we sold the company in November 2011. This is now switching to Agilent style, and this is how my presentation looks like today, kind of marketing from Agilent. So a little bit about where we are today. So how's life after Halo? So sales and marketing was quickly integrated into Agilent field organization. And so there is very impressive field organization. Agilent has a presence essentially around the world in the field of genomics. They had products that they already sold that was quite similar to Halo, so essentially the same customers. So it was a way to very quickly get the product out on the market, which was one of the key reasons why we sold the company at that time. Production, we didn't have a big production. There was a couple of people working on this repackaging of reagents, but that moved to Texas, where all the other similar technologies and products are being made within Agilent. And what's essentially left in Uppsala is R&D that I'm managing, and we're still operating and expanding. So working on next generation of these type of capture products and also other technologies within the field of genomics. We have had multiple new Halo product releases, and it has been actually a great sales success within Agilent, way above expectations, which has been fun. It's one example. So this is Ole Eriksson. He has a picture from last week. We were in Marco Island, Florida, to release our latest Haloplex PCR product that amplify and capture every gene from the genome. So you can do now 2.5 million plex PCR to capture every gene in the genome that you then subsequently can sequence in one single reaction. So it's a demonstration on not only how the technology has been successful on the market, it's also a demonstration on the synergies on the technology side, where Agilent had a very unique and powerful way of making DNA oligonucleotide, which was the key component of Haloplex, and together with Halo's technology, which we provide a clever biochemistry tricks, we can now amplify all the genes in one reaction. So it's a big technical milestone and was an important release at the conference. So in summary, I am going to just briefly touch base on how we view the strategy and also a couple of lessons learned. So our initial strategy was to sell the company within 5 years. We sold it after 3 years, and there was many reasons to do so. I think we all agreed that the type of exit that was less risky was to sell the company, because the type of product we had was a pretty focused product for a very specific application, and something you can't continue to grow more than the number of instruments that is out there. And we were also dependent on the instrument makers, so we could see a very good fit with one of these instrument providers. So that was one of the reasons, and the reason we sold after 3 years was that the market was growing extremely fast. I would say probably the fastest growing market in life science. So next generation sequencing has just been outpacing essentially everything else, both in terms of technology, innovations, but also investments in venture capital, and also from companies like Agilent. So we realized that the competition was being increasingly tough, and when we started to build commercial operations, you had to ask yourself, okay, how long will it take before we get a commercial operation that can compete with our competitors? That's going to take years to do, and do we have that time? And we realized that probably not. So much faster and best for the technology to get out there now with an up and running sales force, and that's exactly what we did. So I think how to keep focused during an M&A process, I already touched based on that. I think that was one of the key decisions we made, that both Olle and I kept focus, or Olle less than I, but focus on daily operations for Halo, because you never know what's going to be the outcome of an M&A process. It may not happen. So it was very important that to not lose momentum, we had to keep working in normal pace at the company, and by doing that, the only way to do that is to outsource to the M&A process to an advisor. So I think that was again a key decision. Some lessons learned is I think we realized that time was our biggest enemy, not lack of resources, because again the field was moving so quickly, and the fact that you need to spend your money, although you need to spend them wisely, you need to spend them very, very fast to keep up with the pace. And spending money wisely and fast can be difficult. Then trust your instinct is kind of a common lesson, but I also would like to add, even though you have never used it before, and what I'm trying to say is that if you haven't started a company before, you are still the person who knows the field better than anyone else. And so I encourage everyone to listen to others, to other experiences. But in the end, when you're going to make important strategic decisions, you have to trust your own instinct, because you know this better than anyone else. You know the technology, you know the field, you know the market. So keep that in mind. And also, I think something we learned, and which is also a common cause of failure, is when you're going to start the commercialization stage. That's a tricky balancing act, because you don't want to start it too early, because then you're going to spend your money on sales guys that has nothing to sell, and that's going to bring you down. But on the other hand, you can't start building sales team too late in the game, because then you have a product that you don't get out on the market, and then you're dead anyway. So you need to find this balancing act where you start building a commercial team simultaneously as product development, and that's difficult. And I think looking back, we did some. There was some things we could have done better on that part. I think we started to sell the technology a little bit too early when it wasn't quite ready. I think the reason was that we wanted to know that if people are interested in buying or not. But we could probably have waited a little bit more, because it took a lot of effort from us to start supporting and teaching customers about products that wasn't quite ready yet. So that's also something to keep in mind. With that, I would like to thank everyone. A special thanks to Uppsala Innovation Center for inviting me to have this presentation, and also for being a support from the beginning to the end. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of this resource. So it's been, for us, it's been a key resource, and for everyone that hasn't no previous experience of startups, I think it's a great way to start and learn how to build companies. So with that, I would like to thank everyone, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Fredrik. I have a question from Mats Färm. Did you ever consider trying to approach US investors or ventures capital for the early funding? Did you understand this question?
Yes, we did. And yes, so we did. Getting funding also takes a lot of time. If the M&A was not happening, we had a backup plan, and that was a third round of more serious or traditional venture capital. So there was a couple of US-based firms that were interested. We didn't have any, well, I would say more than interested. So pretty far along discussions.
And another question from Mats Färm is, how important was it to have business development experienced business development people in the management team or board, for example, Anders Nordström or Morten?
Very, very important, obviously. I think, as I said in the beginning, that you should, if you work together with Uppsala Innovation Center, for instance, one of the resources is business coaches, and Anders is one of them. We took enormous advantage of their knowledge, obviously. Obviously important.
Okay. Mats Färm, was that a good answer to your question?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. I also have a question from Ola Björkman. Where is Halo in 5 years from now?
Yeah, well, if you look back in 5 years, there was no next sequencing at all. So that's what we're trying to figure out today, where the industry is going, what's the next big thing. So we have a couple of ideas, but nothing I like to disclose.
Okay, Ola, are you happy with that answer?
Obviously, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I also have one question from Kille Ternov. Did your first beta clients pay for the first sample products?
Yes, they did.
Okay, Kille, are you happy with that answer?
Yes, sure.
Okay, good. I have a question.
So I'd like to add.
Sorry.
Maybe I'd like to add to that. So when working on beta customers and early customers, it's not necessary that the customer need to pay, well, at least not full price, because there has to be some common understanding between the company and the customer that this is a beta customer that is also part of an evaluation. We did not have any problems to have people pay for it, and usually if you pay at least a little bit, the customer also shows some dedication to be part of the development. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to just send off products for free to anyone, because then you may not get anything back as feedback.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. How was it to go from a small startup company to being part of a huge international organization with about 20,000 employees? It must have been quite different.
Yes. So above expectations, I would say in summary, but it's been some good and some bad things. The whole so Agilent there's a lot of systems that you need to learn, everything from order a computer to sending a FedEx. When it's all up and running, it works quite good, but kind of the integration part, I remember especially the IT side was painful. Then the good parts is also obvious. You're part of a big organization. You don't need to worry about not getting your salary your next month, as we did with Halo all the time. Although that was also part of the excitement, I guess. But that's something you can take advantage of. You have more resources to do R&D from my perspective. Where you have resources and also access to technologies that you can access faster than as a startup. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I have a question also from Miguel Matos. How much did you raise during the seed phase?
So in total, we raised, let's see, so about 25-ish million Swedish krona. So that's about $4 million. So not much compared to a traditional startup.
Miguel, are you happy with that answer? Okay, thanks. Another question from...
We also had some... Sorry.
Yeah.
So we also had some grant funding in the beginning, and I don't remember the exact amount, but these were also important in the start.
I also have a question from Indrek Kask. How did the M&A process start for you? Did you do specific road shows, or did the companies that were interested to buy, or did the companies interested to buy the company approach you?
Yes, so the company approached us, and they came to Uppsala to visit us. So we didn't do any, we didn't do any tour in California, and it was all handled by the M&A advisor.
Okay, Indrek, are you happy with that answer?
Just a quick question. Did you have one potential buyer or many?
Many.
Okay. And how did you do the final selection? Was it solely based on how much somebody actually offered you, or
Yes.
What were the main criteria for you?
Money.
Okay, clear.
Okay, thank you. Also have a question from Felicia Lindberg. How many employees are you in Uppsala today?
We're around 15 people.
And you are growing?
And it's all, yes, and it's all R&D. And then we are hundreds of people that is working on the technology in different functions: production, marketing, sales, and so on, support.
Okay. Felicia, are you happy with that answer?
Actually, I didn't hear you there. How many employees?
Oh, so we're 15 people. So my team is based in Sweden and in California. And in total, we're about 20.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. We seem to have some problems with the technique. Let's see here. Let's see that Mats sent me a message here that he couldn't hear me either. Mats, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Okay. Can you hear? Is anyone can hear me now? I'm sorry, we have a problem with the technique.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fredrik, I can hear you now. I'm sorry about this. This technique is not with us. I think that we will say thank you to Fredrik. I have a number of questions remaining. But I think that I will send you an email with the questions, Fredrik, and perhaps you can answer them by email, and I will forward them to all the participants. Would that be okay?
Sure.
In case the technique will be lost completely. So I want to thank you for a very interesting presentation, and we are very happy that you could take this time to tell us about your exciting journey. And before we say goodbye, I would like to present the next webinar, which is held on the 28th of March by Cidade Science Park in Spain. And if we have Juan Bertolin with us, I would like to hear if he can give us a short description of the coming topic. Juan? Hello, Juan? Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hello?
Hello, Terekule. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine. Could you tell us a little about the coming topic in the next webinar?
Yeah, well, we are still designing the next webinar for the 28th of March, but we'll be focused in how as, let's say, in our science part we have a very a startup, well, a grow-up company that is working in biotech, and they have a model very interesting in terms of how they have designed a new way of measuring the Legionella the Legionella using a very innovative system, right? How they can build a biotech project that usually is not very easy to run a project from biotechnology in terms of looking for investment from private investors, right? Because whenever you have a startup from the ICT, sometimes the ICT is much easier to understand that in a very short term it will be easy to get investment, but from the biotech environment it's not so easy to demonstrate that you are able to do that. So they have been suffering a lot in the long road, and they are now in a very interesting position now. So we think that their experience will show us lessons learned from that. This is one of our ideas for the next webinar.
Okay, thanks. We're looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining, and as I said earlier, I will collect the remaining questions and send them by email to all of you. And as I said also, we are recording this webinar, so you can, if you want to see the slides again or hear Fredrik's presentation, you can do it as many times as you wish. I will send you an email with the information about this as soon as possible. And please feel free to send me examples of topics that you would like to hear in the future webinars, and perhaps if you want to make contact with Fredrik, I'm sure that would be just fine. Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and looking forward to see you again in coming webinars. Bye-bye.